my name is Joe, and I am your host for Back in the 90s, a Bojack Horseman recap series. Today, we'll be discussing Season 1, Episode 2, Bojack Hates the Troops. This episode opens with a shot of a bar called Bellicans. I have crappy eyes, but I'm pretty sure that is a B, not a P, right? I'm assuming it's either a reference to a chain bar or it's just the word bar combined with pelican. I also like that we can see Bojack's car in the parking lot. So when we go in the bar, we see Bojack, who looks depressed. And he has the bartender, who is a pelican, which I thought was very cute, overpour his cup a lot. And are we, the audience, supposed to think that he's this upset about finding out that Diane and Mr. Peanut Butter are dating? Or are we just supposed to think this is a normal night for him? And then we have the iconic girl talking shit on Bojack scene.
Bojack Horseman from Horsin' Around? No, I mean, he got a little fatter, but it's definitely him. He looks really sad. It's hilarious. Get over here now!
When I originally wrote the script for this video, I didn't have too much on the beginning part of this little thing between Bojack and the girl at the bar, but I just wanted to say the little smile Bojack does after she says Bojack Horseman from Horsin' Around, and then the fall of his face when she says he got a little fatter, but it's definitely him, is so sad to me. It kind of reminds me, like, do you remember in Shrek where Shrek hears Fiona and Donkey talking and he like assumes it's about him and he walks away all sad? It gives me that, like, that kind of, like, when you feel that bad for a fictional cartoon character, you know? Bojack then receives a phone call from who he assumes is Princess Carolyn.
I told you I don't know where it is. Don't put things in my butt if you want them back.
And hold for Princess Carolyn, please.
Thanks, Laura.
The voice acting and the animation in this clip is so goddamn good. You just feel that cringe deep in your soul. Warning, incoming excited squeal. Eee! This is the first time we hear PC's Jellicle's holding theme for her, I guess, her phone calls, and I love it. I love the theme. I think it's so catchy. When we get to Kyle and the kids, when we get to that episode, I'm going to fully go off. Because I sing that song constantly to myself to this day. Constantly. Like randomly in my head. All the time. PC says to Bojack that the reason that she's calling is to make sure Bojack is ready for his first day with Diane tomorrow. Bojack, stupidly, asks if Diane will be asking him personal questions. PC is like, yeah, dude, duh. And this leads to an exchange that I think embodies their dynamic so well.
Okay, all right. There's no need to get...
What, catty? Are you gonna say catty?
I was not gonna say catty.
All right, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say catty. Because you're a cat?
Goodbye, Bojack.
I believe I've read trivia before stating that before every episode they did do a table read, which for animation is pretty rare. And I feel like during scenes like this, you can really feel the effects of that table read. Their back and forths feel so organic and so real, specifically PC and Bojack. Like, they play off each other so well. And it's amazing to me that the actors weren't in the same room when these lines were recorded. I was going to jump right into Bojack dressing down this mean girl, but I just want to say there is a scene where her and her friends are taking pictures of and laughing at Bojack, and we can all agree that Bojack sucks. Like, if you've never seen the show, you're probably like, how does Bojack suck? He just seems lazy. We'll get there. But don't do this to people. Don't do this to anybody. That's really, really mean. Like, just don't do that. It's so easy to not be a dick. Just don't do that. Thank you for indulging me in my bullying PSA. I do appreciate it. So then we get Bojack dressing down the mean girl, yelling at her, basically telling her that she ruined his night and it's not okay. And we, of course, get the iconic exchange that went viral on TikTok.
That you're a horrible person doesn't make you less of a horrible person.
You think I'm pretty?
Side note, I love it when a sound from like a show or a movie or a song I love goes viral on TikTok. I get so excited for the creators. So then these two go home together and we get a very mean but very great line from Bojack.
Well, that was another in a long series of regrettable life choices.
I used to quote this line constantly in late high school, like after any minor inconvenience. And if you're wondering to yourself, were you insufferable? Did you have friends? Yes, I was, and no, I didn't. Let's move on. After the theme song, we come back to a shot of Bojack's car the next morning. The lights are still on, clothes are left where they were. Damn solid continuity. Real quick though, wouldn't the lights in his car go dead? Like, unless he left the bar at like 3 or 5 a.m., I guess they wouldn't be dead. But I feel like he left the bar almost right after PC's phone call, and she wouldn't be calling him that late. Do rich people just have better car batteries? Is this a stupid observation? So we find out the lady from the bar, her name is Pam, so I'm just going to call her Pam. Pam's the main character. Pam does not care about Bojack wanting her out of his house. She doesn't care. She's going to eat her breakfast in Bojack's sweater, and she's going to look good doing it. Go off, Pam. Unbothered queen.
Hey, Bojack.
Ah! Why are you here?
You told me to come at 9.
That doesn't sound like me.
I have your email right here. Diane, why don't you come over Tuesday morning at 9? Also, you should bring this email with you because I might not remember it because I just took a bunch of horse tranquilizers, ha ha. Also, please don't put in my book that I use horse tranquilizers, ha ha. I just use a small dose to help me fall asleep at night and then a much, much larger dose to get me through the day.
I love how Bojack is just freaking out that whole scene. I swear, the animators on this show were just so insanely talented. This is gold. Real quick, before we discuss the next scene, I just wanted to point out that you can actually see Mr. Peanut Butter's arm behind the fridge door before he pops out.
It's my business person.
Excuse me?
Here to help me with some business needs. All very above board.
What'd you say?
No need to mention her in the book either, unless it's a business book.
Classic Bojack.
Why are you here?
Oh, funny story. I'm filming a reality show later, so I thought I'd drop by with the old tennis ball and chain.
I like how annoyed Pam is that Bojack isn't telling the truth. Like, we never see her again after this episode, so I just find it funny how indignant she is over this. But also, what's going on with Pam? What is going on with main character Pam? Stop going home with men who are mean to you, and stop being a mean girl. Heal yourself, Pam. Love you, girl. I love how visibly bitter and annoyed Bojack is, especially when Diane shows Mr. Peanut Butter attention. We also get an absolute terrific line read from Mr. Peanut Butter.
Reality show. It's pretty cutting edge, huh?
Yeah, if it's 2003.
Don't tell VH1 that. Seriously, though, please don't tell VH1 that.
I'm going to take a big swing here and say there is not a single weak line read in this show. I'll update you if we come across one. Obviously, this is subjective, but I do think I can be a snob with bad line reads, specifically when it's done by adult actors. I do give some leeway to children actors, but I don't think there are any children casted on this show. I'll update you if we come across one. The argument that Mr. Peanut Butter and Bojack have about wordplay is great. We get to see how serious Bojack takes comedy, wordplay, puns, all of that, and we get to see it a lot throughout this show. This is not the last time he'll correct someone like this.
King title.
Well, it could be working harder. And that's wordplay.
Mi casa es su casa.
And that is the last of the toaster strudels, and now my morning is ruined.
The reason why Bojack says this is because after Pam eats a toaster strudel, he says to her, "That better not be my last one." And she replies, "No, there's 3 left. Diane eats one, Todd eats one." So then, when Bojack says this, it makes me ask, did Pam mean when she went to take one, there were 3 left, or after she took one, there were 3 left? Because I assumed the latter, but I only saw 2 eaten in this scene. Toaster Strudelgate. This was driving me insane, mainly because I was like, who would say there's 3 left, meaning they included the one they took? That's insane. So I went back and I looked and I figured it out, guys. Alright, so Miss Pam says there's 3 left after she eats one. Diane eats one, and then we get the fastest scene alive of Mr. Peanut Butter eating one, which is the scene that I kept missing, and then Todd eats one. So, Miss Pam, my girl, you were accurate, you are not a crook. Toaster Strudelgate has been solved.
Hello, I'm Nixon.
I love Todd's tuxedo shirt, no pants combo, it's awesome. He's also on a date with like a scammer. I'm only bringing it up because there are jokes about it later on. And I love his little smile when Bojack says he can stay because he lives there. Duh. So Bojack whips it to the grocery store, and when he's pulling in the parking lot, there's a family of meerkats, and I love that all their heads turn in unison to look at him.
Really shouldn't eat chocolate because it can literally kill me.
Oh, I know.
But I love chocolate.
Story of my life.
On the surface, this is just plain adorable. 2 dogs talking about love and chocolate. And if you dig a little bit deeper, they're clearly supposed to be middle-aged women, just with how they are animated, with how they talk and their cadence and their delivery. And I think we've all like overheard our moms or our aunts or our grandmoms talking about like, oh, I can't eat this, I can't eat that, like I'm too old, which is also bullshit, by the way. You need to eat food. But I just think it's really cute and a really good way to make this world feel relatable and lived in. I love that Bojack thinks that the guy is recognizing him from horsing around. Also, if you look in between where they're talking, like where that vegetable stand is, there's like water damage animated into the vegetable stand, and it is there the whole scene. And I just thought that was cool.
I don't understand. Did you bring them into the store with you?
Will Arnett kills this line read. Also, this is probably a nothing observation, but I just wanted to point out that they are apple muffins, and there is something later in the season that references apple fritters. So I just think it's cute that Bojack consistently likes apple-based desserts. Also, I love that it's called Muffin Man, and then there's this creepy, cute drawing of a muffin saying to eat him. Anyway, so we're verbally throwing down in the produce section.
I don't want to get into a whole thing here.
Then give me the muffins.
Oof. Bojack handles what's coming up next poorly, but I don't blame him for bristling at that condescending ass tone. I would not respond well to that either.
You think that because you're a pseudo-celebrity, normal rules don't apply to you?
Pseudo? Would you say that to Eric McCormick? Look.
Not gonna lie, I had to look up who Eric McCormick was, so sorry to any Eric McCormick fans out there. McCorm heads, I'm assuming you're called. Can we talk about how Bojack just like disappeared in the 2 seconds this guy's back was turned? Also, I love the lady looking at carrots in the background, and I love her little bunny ears going up when the seal yells. I also love that we can see one of the dogs that we saw earlier behind Bojack in line, ready to check out.
Going to regret this, Bojack Horseman.
Man, I really regret buying those muffins and then eating them all on the drive home.
Here's a detail they didn't need to include. When Bojack points at Todd, you can see his finger in the little clear, like, window for the muffins. So cool. Also, when Todd's talking about this girl that's scamming him, Diane just looks mildly concerned. And I feel like the Diane we all know and love would be like, Todd? What's going on, bud? One of my favorite things about Bojack is the little animal jokes that they sneak in the background or these transition shots. Like this little sheep or billy goat gardener taking a little bite out of the hedge. So cute. So throughout this episode, we have Diane trying to get Bojack to open up and talk about his childhood and his family life, and Bojack's just not having it. He's given her like very short and not satisfying answers. And then we get this very harrowing flashback.
Here's your omelet. I'm sorry it's not as good as the omelets your secretary makes, but then you're not married to your secretary, are you?
Well, maybe if my secretary also refused to get an abortion, I would be.
Mommy, can I have an omelet?
You're the birthday boy.
So the paper that Bojack's dad is reading says the Beatles have officially broken up. And I looked this up, and the Beatles officially broke up on December 29th, 1974. And Bojack was born on January 2nd, 1964, meaning that Bojack is 11 during this memory. And this memory is so messed up. This scene is so quick, but it's so wrong. Bojack's dad basically said he wished Bojack was never born on his actual literal birthday. Like, that is so rough. That is just, like, no child should have to hear that. God.
Hey, I met this guy.
All Neil wanted when he got home, and I emphasize, from Afghanistan, was his favorite brand of breakfast muffins.
You gotta love the animation of Bojack's face just falling when he realizes what's happening.
Laughed, ha ha ha, we chortled in rapturous glee. But when you deny the dibs called by our men and women on the front lines, that is a sick joke, sir. A sick, sick joke indeed, and you'll forgive me if I chortle no longer. For to me, there is nothing the least bit funny about stealing a meal from Neil McBeal, the Navy SEAL.
During that scene, we get an introduction to one of the things that fans love about this show, and that's the rhyming and the tongue twisters. The whole speech that Tom Jumbo Grumbo did was such a good way to introduce his character because he is such a fun, like, tertiary character. Todd's face here is like, oh shit. Bojack even has Tom Jumbo Grumbo mad at him.
You stole muffins from a Navy SEAL?
I didn't know he was a Navy SEAL. I just thought he was a regular kind of SEAL.
I hid them in the produce section!
You left them totally out in the open. That's hiding. How did you survive in Afghanistan?
Those are my muffins! You give me back my muffins! Arr, arr.
Those two scenes are the funniest in the episode. I never fail to laugh when Neil McBeal starts doing the R. Oh, no, that was bad.
Hey, guess what? I can't give them back, because I ate them all, okay? Dude.
Hold on.
I love Diane writing Stop Talking. She is always the voice of reason because he is just digging himself deeper into this hole. And I find it interesting that he wants people to believe he's this together, collected, cool, respected celebrity. And it's like these public outbursts are not going to make people think that. So it's interesting that something this small can set him off this badly. And you have to think, is it because he assumes that people will not like him now, and that's why he feels the need to defend himself like this, because he can't stand not being liked by the general public? Or, like, what is going on here? Like, why is this so important to him? Or he's just a narcissist who can't admit when he's wrong.
I want to be alone, I have to go to the roof because it's the only place they don't have insurance to film.
You go on the roof?
Yeah, just to get some work done. Is that really weird?
Oh, it's adorable.
When I was a kid, I used to climb onto the roof with my dad and look at the stars. What about you? Were you close with your father?
The roof becomes this very important, reoccurring location in Diane and Bojack's relationship, which is why I'm including this little tidbit here about Diane and the roof. At the end of the pilot, we actually see Bojack open up to Diane, so it's interesting that now that he knows that anything he says is going to go into the book, that he's being more selective and more careful about what he tells her. Now, Bojack could not want people to know about his shitty childhood for lots of reasons. The two that come to my mind are, one, face value is so important to this man, he wants to be perceived as this perfect being, this perfect celebrity. Two, and this kind of plays into this, I think Bojack's embarrassed. I think as a child, he convinced himself that the abuse was his fault, that he did something that made his parents not love him the way other kids' parents loved them, which obviously is not the case. It's never the child's fault. And I think that that is part of this. Bojack is afraid that if Diane writes down the whole story, that people are going to say, oh, no wonder your parents didn't love you, or something horrible like that. So I forgot to bring this up during the first flashback, but Bojack and his father are both voiced by Will Arnett, so they both have the exact same voice. And Bojack and his mother look very similar with their diamond-shaped patterns on their foreheads. And obviously, Bojack was abused by both of his parents. We can tell that in this episode, and they just got introduced. And I can't imagine, as a child, having to walk around looking like one of my abusers and sounding like the other. Like, that just must be awful for a child who had to experience abuse. Even if they didn't start sounding like their father until adulthood, I just can't imagine how that must feel.
Uneventful.
What?
What?
I asked if you were close with your father and you sat here in silence for 5 minutes and then said uneventful?
I love jokes like this in any show where a character's having a flashback and the other characters are like, hello? Where the hell did you go? Like, what the hell? Because imagine that. Imagine asking somebody a question and then them just staring at, like, into space for, like, 4 minutes. I would be like, are you okay? Like, are you good? As we discussed in the pilot, Bojack will want something like his memoir, and he will find a way to procrastinate or self-sabotage, like focusing on this muffin thing. I almost said flocusing. But it's just funny to me that he really wanted this book done until he had to be open and vulnerable, and now he's looking for a way to pump the brakes on it a bit.
I'm sure a lot of the troops are jerks. Most people are jerks already, and it's not like giving a jerk a gun and telling him it's okay to kill people suddenly turns that jerk into a hero.
Honestly, Bojack was ahead of his time here. If you look at the little scrolly headline thing, it says U.S. government grants amnesty to millionaires, which is horrifyingly on topic. Happy birthday to Enid Smith, America's oldest woman. New Yorker goes to Italy, complains about pizza, and then immediately after it says condolences to the family of Enid Smith, America's former oldest woman. So wrong. And then the last one is milk lemonade around the corner gentrification.
Oh, no.
The troops are jerks?
Oh, God.
Most people are jerks already, and it's not like giving a jerk a gun.
Hello?
Princess Carolyn needs to talk to you immediately.
Great, put her on.
She's actually just getting out of a meeting. Can you hold for a sec?
You called me.
I'm gonna level with you, honey. This whole you hating the troops thing is not great.
There's a lot of great lines in this episode, but I think Princess Carolyn's delivery of not great is my favorite. Just the little sing-song thing she did was so perfect.
It is now day 3 of the Great Bojack Jerk-Off. Really? That's the name we came up with for this?
I know I just gave line of the episode to Princess Carolyn, but unfortunately I'm gonna have to rescind that. Rescind? recedes what hairlines do. I'm gonna have to rescind that because this line is fantastic. It is delivered so well. I literally know not to drink anything during this specific part of the episode, because if I do, I will choke, because this line makes me crack up every time. I also was like, who is this guy? Who's this guy that voices Tom? Because I've never looked it up. It's a newscaster. His name's Keith. He's like a sports guy. And I think that's so on brand because he sounds so good doing the news. So go off, Keith. Thank you for voicing this amazing character. You did such a good job.
That's the name we came up with for this? Who came up with that? Was it Randy? Did Randy come up with that?
Woo! First mention for Randy. Let's go, Randy. Woohoo! I unfortunately couldn't find a better picture for this, but if you look in the bottom left corner of Bojack's house, you can see a bear in a blue shirt holding a sign, and that is the protester we're going to see in the next clip.
Bojack Horseman makes me sick. He voiced his opinion, even though it was unpopular, and that's the most cowardly thing a person could do.
You gotta love the writers reminding you that though Bojack is handling this poorly, his opinion isn't right or wrong. It's just his opinion. I noticed that at the bottom of the screen when the bear is talking, it said, "Report has been hates troops, looks fat," and I think that that's a joke on the pilot running gag with the headlines that Bojack kept saying, like, "Dumb guy eats bread, gets fat, the end." And Todd's like, "What headlines are you reading?" I feel like that's a callback to that. I could be reaching, but it just feels like that, doesn't it?
Here's that Bojack's Lexus is coming out of the garage. This is very big news indeed.
Any comment on Bojack's controversial remarks this week?
Nope.
You gotta love their cover just being like a ton of dirty laundry just thrown on top of Bojack. Also, I love how Diane grabs the wheel when Todd goes to call his, like, scammer girlfriend. Also, I concur with Ayako. Who the shit is George Bailey? Update, it's the guy from It's a Wonderful Life. This has really been the episode for Googling people, huh?
While we make a plan.
After they decide to go to Diane's to hide out, we get a quick little scene of the pig, the paparazzi pig, and I love his little face, and I hope we see more of him because, like I said in the pilot, I remembered the paparazzi birds, but I completely forgot that Piggy Balloon Boy here even existed. So next we have a scene where Bojack is at Mr. Peanut Butter and Diane's house and is sort of conceding and being like, "I want this to go away." So PC explains that
I've already reached out to the McBeal camp. He's willing to publicly forgive you if you publicly apologize and present to him a box of muffins as a symbol of your great admiration for the American military and everything they do.
But I ate the muffins.
I know. We got another box. It's in the cupboard.
Oh, you were saving those? I ate those too.
We've been here for 10 minutes! It's okay. We'll get more
once again, another killer line read by Amy Sedaris. I also just wanted to point out behind Princess Carolyn, you can see a decorative, like, bowl full of tennis balls.
Why don't you do it on peanut butter and jelly?
You can't call a show peanut butter and jelly if there's no jelly.
It's a pun.
It's not a pun if it only works one way.
Again, I really like the fact that despite all of Bojack's flaws, he really does genuinely care about comedy and acting.
We can edit this to make me look smart, right?
Calling it now, I will definitely be using that clip in future videos. The awkward feeling in this scene is done so well. Even without the sound, by animation alone, you can tell our characters are more stiff and uncomfortable than usual. I appreciate how even though these characters feel very human, the creators still give them animal traits like Mr. Peanut Butter's ears going up when he hears the door, and his little tennis ball painting behind him. It's just very well done. Also, Mr. Peanut Butter tiptoeing away is so silly and cute.
You're a hero. The troops are all heroes. Every single one.
Great.
And I don't believe saying that cheapens the word and actually disrespects those we mean to honor by turning real people into political pawns. Not deeply ambivalent about a seemingly mandated celebration of our military by a nation that claims to value peace, telling our children that violence is never the answer while refusing to hold our own government to the same standard. Furthermore, I do not find it unbelievably appropriate that this conversation is taking place on reality television. A genre which thrives on chopping the complexities of our era into easily digestible chunks of empty catchphrases.
No one can say that Bojack isn't talented. He just pulled this speech out of his ass, and it was pretty solid given the fact that he had maybe 3 seconds to think about it. I don't often agree with Bojack, but my god, does he go off in this episode. He truly is making amazing points that I think a lot of Americans, especially right now, agree with even more than they did 10 years ago. And in this exact circumstance, I can understand why Bojack is so bitter. During this very heartfelt and true speech, he gets interrupted by a crew member saying that Mr. Peanut Butter got a bucket stuck on his head. So then everyone's attention turns toward Mr. Peanut Butter, and Bojack's like, I still had a point I wanted to make, but nobody cares. And I'm curious, does anyone else think that Mr. Peanut Butter did this on purpose, like that he put his head in the bucket on purpose? Because he was in the scene like right before this happened, and then magically he has a bucket stuck on his head. And I don't even mean that in like a sabotaging way. Like, do you think he thought Bojack was bombing and decided to just like steal focus? Like, I don't know. The crew member that took the bucket off Mr. Peanut Butter's head, her name's Angela, but her nickname is Jelly, so that made Mr. Peanut Butter very happy, and we've actually seen her in the background several times throughout the episode. Her shirt says Misprints, which is a reference to the band Misfits. So Bojack goes up to the roof, and he finds Diane there, smoking a cigarette.
Look, I can write you the standard empty-calorie celebrity tell-some if that's what you're looking for, but I thought you might want more than that.
I do.
Well, then you're going to have to open up and give me something real.
This scene, this conversation, is where their connection truly begins. This is where we see them start to develop their friendship and their working relationship.
Okay. From now on, full truth. Warts and all. You're not gonna make me look like an asshole, are you?
I don't know. Are you an asshole?
Bojack's pregnant pause after Diane says, "Are you an asshole?" is so well done.
You wanna know about my parents? They drank. A lot. My father was a failed novelist. My mother was the heiress to the Sugarman Sugar Cubes fortune, and my dad resented her for it.
And that's the end of Bojack Season 1, Episode 2, Bojack Hates the Troops. It ends with him finally opening up to somebody. I enjoyed this episode. It's definitely not in like one of my top favorites, but it's still very good. We get some rare, accurate self-righteousness from Bojack, and we have classic Todd shenanigans. We get Diane being the voice of reason, PC doing her expert damage control, but most importantly, not only did we confirm the existence of Paparazzi Pig, but we also solved Toaster Strudelgate. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Back in the 90s. If you did like this video, please subscribe. That way you won't miss the next episode. And it's going to be a good one. We're getting introduced to a heavy hitter character. Until next time, my name is Joe without the E. Thanks for watching.